So, hi, my name is Toby Brown. I'm a managing director for global banking solutions at Google Cloud. What our team really does is we think about how do you use the power of Google technology to solve financial services specific challenges and use cases. So, I came from the industry, worked at banks for decades, and then came to Google Cloud, and now I get to bring that industry lens to the table combined with a deep understanding of our tech stack and talk to customers about doing just what I said. So it's great to see us continue to help the industry transform and working with customers around the world to do just that.
So today we're exploring kind of use cases in the financial services industry for AI. And good AI always seems to rely on good data. So how do you think about, or how are financial institutions going about getting the data? What kind of data are they typically accessing and using? Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think historically in the industry, the reality has been that it's a very data rich and insight poor industry, right? So everyone knows that you have tremendously rich sets of information about your customers, but it's been really hard to stitch that together and to actually get the insight out of it and activate it. And so anyone who's talking to us about digital transformation and AI is also having a data conversation. And I always segment that into really two buckets: data for offense and data for defense. So on the offense side, what I mean by that is really using data to drive growth, like at a financial institution. And it's always, like I said, been really hard to get this, customer 360 that everyone talks about. You start up with that kind of aspiration and goal, but then you end up with, customer 210 because of how hard it is to stitch the data together across these product silos, across all these business segments. And like I said, the industry's really struggled to do that. And then with data for defense, which what I mean by that is really using all that, granular instrument level data that you have as a financial institution to support all those kind of classic finance and risk use cases. The supply chains around all that data are just incredibly manual and complex. And a lot of times it's spreadsheet driven. And so it creates this really slow, expensive process that has tons of downstream like data quality issues that create real risk for financial institutions. And so for both offense and defense, we now see a lot of financial institutions all over the world looking at how you use the power of cloud like Google Cloud's, our services and tooling to really modernize the data environment. So how do you bring all of that siloed data environment, both structured and unstructured or operational and analytical, this data that used to live in all these different worlds on-prem, how do you bring that into a single data system and easily connect it to AI and to analytics tools to really get insights at speed and scale that ultimately drive the business value that everyone's looking for and is what it's all about. So like, for example, we just had a bunch of press releases with Citi, right, who we've done a ton of work with on modernizing their technology and infrastructure to really drive innovation with cloud and AI. And they're going out there now and talking about how what a critical component it's been of their broader digital strategy to use our tools, and they have a whole slate now of AI use cases in production with us at scale that are really transforming their employee and customer experiences. We also see a lot of customers using AI to accelerate the data modernization journey itself. So, for example, using generative AI to automate a lot of that core data management, data governance work. So things like metadata tagging and enrichment, or data cataloging and classification, or even maintaining and building things like data lineage. A lot of those core data management activities that used to be so heavily manual can now be automated using AI. And it's just a huge accelerator for all these massive data estate modernization efforts that we see globally. So we've worked with, financial institutions like USAA and American Express, along a lot of others, to do just that. And it's, like I said, just a massive accelerator for them to get more value more quickly using the power of these tools.
I like your analogy of 360 or 210. So are there any particular use cases where data has been readily available to create that kind of wholly the optimal experience in terms of leveraging the potential of AI? Any particular applications and specifics?
Yeah, I think the top two use cases in that space are really typically around marketing, right? So like offer generation, campaign generation, things like that, or it's next best action, next best conversation, right? So how are you getting a more holistic view of your customer, and then activating that, use AI to do a better job of getting, real-time personalized marketing offers, or to get real-time personalized conversation with your customers in like a sales and service context. And I think we see a ton of activity on both fronts. So I think marketing, obviously one of the first areas where there was just obvious, product market fit with generative AI. Certainly financial services, no exception. Certainly financial services and industry has huge amounts of spend still on things like, credit card marketing, right? That we all know and feel as consumers. So I see what we see customers doing is looking at, um, once you get that data into a single place, right, like a BigQuery on GCP, you're using this ability to talk to your data using natural language to identify things like novel segments, like to highlight different types of segmentation that you maybe hadn't considered in the past. Instead of these kind of blunt instrument kind of blocks by like demographics and psychographics, you can really get down to this kind of one-to-one segmentation. And then you can pull that thread all the way through to actually develop messaging and collateral like content, right, that actually gives you a truly tailored, personalized interaction back to your customer. So I think that's been really exciting to see that come to life. And then certainly in a next best action, next best conversation type context, um, there's obviously the virtual agent piece. So everyone looking at having a virtual agent on their digital platform, having that trained on all of your customer data that you have, and using that knowledge to then suggest, next best activities or to helping them complete the tasks that they're looking to complete online. Certainly in the contact center as well, we see a ton of applications there where you have the, first in our case, Gemini connected like to your knowledge management system as a financial institution and trained on all of your financial institution's documentation and policies, et cetera, and then also trained on all of your customer data. And it's helping track and listen to conversations and then provide answers back and to help change those conversations in some situations from like a servicing conversation to a sales conversation. So I'll give you an example. We work with Discover to do this, and they have Gemini rolled out across all 10,000 of their agents. So someone calls in and says, "Oh, I have one of your credit cards, and I want to fly to, London Heathrow tomorrow. Which lounge do I have access to?" That's not something that an agent would know off the top of their head typically. So the old experience was put you on hold and go ask someone or go look up that information online, and then 5 minutes later you come back with an answer. And now Gemini is listening, maintaining the context around the customer and all of your company's documentation, saying, boom, here's the answer. It's, whatever it is, Sapphire Lounge and whatever terminal. And then it's also taking the next step and saying, oh, now that you know that the customer is traveling, also ask them if they need travel insurance and helping you position in a really seamless way. And that's one of the things we've seen financial institutions try to do forever, right? As long as I worked in the industry, was help take those kind of cost centers like contact center operations and turn them into also like a sales operation, and in a way that's helping obviously the customer win, and also of course of that there's real business benefit as well.
That's interesting. So on the flip side of that, how are banks thinking around treating customers' data, the integrity and crossing the line, uh, regulation and compliance? What's the fine line there between what banks could do, the art of the possible versus what customers are comfortable with or what the law permits them to?
Yeah, I think there's a you have to balance the capability of the technology and the innovation there with obviously the regulation and the compliance requirements that you have as a highly regulated industry. And certainly, there's a tension there, right, and a balance there that everyone's working through. I think from our perspective at Google, we're of course really focused on um, ensuring that they have all of the controls that they need off the shelf, all of the security capabilities that they need uh, off the shelf, so that they can deploy the technology in a way that's going to fit within their risk appetite. So we see everyone taking a very use case driven approach to that. So that of course it's financial services, so everything's risk based as well, right? So customers typically start with something lower risk, right, and work through kind of that initial assessment of what is the risk of the AI technology for that use case. And then they look at how they can apply the controls that we have off the shelf to help further mitigate that risk and get it to a point where it then all works, right? So there's lots of tools there around things like grounding data with RAG or with Google Search now or Google Maps or other services we have there to help mitigate hallucination, as an example. But there's a whole long list of controls there that are proven out now to really help make sure that the technology is fit for the use case and fit for the purpose in a way that's secure and compliant.
Obviously, this space is evolving very quickly, and a lot has changed just in the last year or so. So, if you were allowed to think ahead and dream a little bit, what do you think the next 5 years will look like, or in 5 years from now, how and what's the best sort of AI scenarios within financial services? Anything you've thought
Yeah.
of?
Yeah, I mean, it's never been harder to predict the future. Um, what I'm really most excited about, honestly, is the power of kind of the multimodal AI capabilities in financial services. I think it's really going to revolutionize how people and companies really access and engage with their financial services providers. You think about how much of today's financial guidance is really static, right? Delivered as kind of these dense, statements or just flat charts or generic reports, and a lot of that just ends up being disregarded and not really engaged with. And then you imagine now this capability to have large language models like Gemini that truly understand your unique financial situation and then can deliver that kind of personalized advice in these really engaging formats, right? It can be a video, a podcast, whatever your favorite medium is, and then you can iterate on it in real time, right? You can interact with it, and I think that's just going to be really powerful, not only in terms of improving kind of everyone's financial literacy and understanding, but then as a result, like their financial health, right? I think that really ties in not only to Google's mission around organizing the world's information and making it accessible. It also ties in just for myself personally, my own values and part of why I'm involved in the industry. And of course, I think all the financial institutions are going to win as well because it's just going to help them better meet their customers' financial needs. So I think that's all really exciting to me, and it's really going to transform the way that we're all interacting with and consuming financial services.
Toby, fascinating insight. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing what you guys deliver in the years to come.
Great to be with you, Krista. Thanks for the time.